all know that the best video game franchises of all time have trees playing a major factor in it, whether it's the Great Deku Tree in The Legend of Zelda, or whatever these glowy tree things are in Elden Ring. Across all video games, you can always tell if you're looking at a good video game franchise by how iconic the trees are in the game. And of course, any game can have trees, but only the good games have trees. So where does that bring us with Halo? If you just think about the franchise across the board, yeah, there's trees in the franchise, but where are the trees in the franchise? Well, Luke and I, being huge Halo fans, needed to prove the point that yes, Halo does in fact have some very special and iconic trees. We decided to do a very thorough search throughout the entire Halo franchise to find the definitive tree of Halo. First of all, the OG Halo Combat Evolved, it does have trees. We can see them in the second level right away. They look pretty cool. Sure, these trees themselves are pretty generic, but you can't argue against them being absolutely iconic, right? There are these interesting flask-shaped trees that do stand out a little bit. Over on Silent Cartographer, we have these bigger trees on the scene where you storm the beach, and you gotta admit, they are pretty big trees. Now, Guilty Spark, on the other hand, has a ton of big trees that actually have their own unique feel with the misty fog around them, so they are quite pretty. And there's that one Marine out of bounds that just really likes this one tree. There's these trees that have these glowy light stuff on them. It's pretty atmospheric. And then, of course, if you're a fan of Christmas trees, we did do a video, by the way, on the best Christmas levels in Halo. But yeah, on Two Betrayals, there are these super tall Christmas trees that are definitely an iconic part of the Halo franchise. When it comes to multiplayer, we had to look at Beaver Creek, because we realized that the trees are really non-specific and don't really stand out at all. I mean, ZE did recycle a bunch of tree designs, but fast forward down the road and you look at the Reach remake of Beaver Creek, they actually realized this and did switch out some of the trees and gave them more character, which was something we appreciated. Halo 2 is interesting because on Cairo Station, right away you get that 1990s mall aesthetic under a starry sky, and just these trees are very iconic. I mean, look at this. On old graphics, we got this great looking tree. You can actually tell it's an aspen because of the way it is. Moving forward through Halo 2, we weren't actually going to check outskirts because we didn't think there were any trees on it. But then we saw the thumbnail and we're like, oh, look at that huge tree. We got to go take a look. Then we jumped into the level, and honestly, the tree probably didn't live up to the hype that the thumbnail kind of showed off. We did find this really cool bonsai looking tree inside of this atrium, and that's a pretty good tree. And the palm trees do at least blend into the concrete aesthetic of old Mombasa. Over on Delta Halo, there's like these faces that look like they're inside of the tree. It definitely makes us wonder what they're trying to hide, because the faces are here in the old graphics and then you switch to the new graphics and the faces are mysteriously gone. Also, while we were climbing around on the trees, we realized that some of the tree branches you can't actually stand on. And I found this one branch that is kind of just partially freestanding on the tree, which is very interesting. But ultimately, we are just trying to figure out the true meaning behind these trees and what do these trees actually mean. Uprising also has some trees. See? Look. They're tree-like. Now, we did jump onto the level High Charity hoping to find some trees over here, and we're a little disappointed that we couldn't find any iconic trees, but then we jumped onto the multiplayer level Gemini, which takes place on High Charity, and it came true with this really awesome tree as a middle set piece that you can even stand on. There's a sword in the middle. This is a top-tier tree for sure. On the multiplayer level Backwash, which is named after the thing that one kid in school did if you let him have a sip of your drink, does have some more cool alien-looking trees like you saw in Halo 1's Guilty Spark. And then Coagulation, interestingly enough, has a little bit of a unique story with some of the trees. I mean, across this vast canyon, surely there's some great trees. There's 3 trees in total on this level. That was something we actually thought for some reason there would be a lot more than just 3. But yeah, there's just these 3 trees chilling here. So we decided to go back to Combat Evolved and compare that to Blood Gulch, which is Coagulation in Halo 1. And interestingly enough, there are some differences in the trees in Blood Gulch to Coagulation. For instance, there's this tree, which kind of looks like a Guy Fieri inspired tree with its frosted tips. Now, we've never seen a tree like this before, but I guess we're on an alien Halo, so maybe it makes sense. We also ran into this bush debate where we had to decide whether or not this would count as a tree because it does have a singular stump. And while that can be a trait of bushes in real life, not so much in video games in 2001, so we counted this one as a tree, as things that look more like this are a bush. Also, there was a dead tree over here. We actually found that the Guy Fieri trees did show up in the campaign as well over on Truth and Reconciliation. There's also some other interesting trees here. There's these growy boys coming out of the side of the cliff, and if you flip on anniversary graphics, there's this scuffed looking tree, and I don't know what's wrong with it. Continuing our search with the Blood Gulch coagulation arc, we loaded up on Bloodline in Halo 2 Anniversary to look at some of the trees on there, and Luke pointed out that this looked like a Californian backyard, and neither of us know what he meant there, but sure, it'll go in the video. Also, it was a pretty big deal back when Halo 2 Anniversary ended up adding trees into Forge mode. For the first time ever, we're able just to sprinkle trees around, and that was pretty cool. We could finally build our dream trees, and that was something we were proud of. And Halo Reach, later on in the MCC edition, added in trees for Reach, which was another cool thing that they added in. Okay, Halo 3, it's a good game. It has trees also. We know right away, Sierra 117, boom, you're in a forest, there's a tree or two that you can look at. At the beginning of the arc, there's a cool tree you can jump on and climb around on. And on the Covenant, there's these big trees. There's also some dead trees. So whatever your tree fancy is, you're usually covered by the time you get to the Covenant. Valhalla was a really interesting map because they took the idea of Blood Gulch and coagulation and said, hey, what if we had those maps and we just changed it up a little bit, but added trees to make it more iconic? And for the most part, those multiplayer levels did end up being more iconic with the addition of trees. Also, Avalanche has Christmas trees in it too, which is something that we appreciate the inclusion of, especially since Halo is a Christmas franchise. If you're playing in Halo Reach, whether you load up on New Alexandria or the campaign level Exodus, there's these pretty looking trees that you can actually climb and stand inside, which are neat. New Alexandria actually has quite a few trees. If you play on the level New Alexandria, you can see another tree, but this time it's indoors. And then at the end section of Pillar of Autumn in Reach, there is a tree that you can stand on, and some people use it to glitch out of the map, blah, 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 blah. We're not interested in that. We just want to stand on the tree and take in the view for a moment. Oh yeah, as we're going through this list, we forgot to talk about ODST. But yeah, there's a tree in ODST too, on Uplift Reserve. It's a good tree. I mean, it's not a bad tree by any means. So yeah, it's a good tree. Then Halo 4 is interesting because they just went all out with the new tree redesign update that they did with Halo 4. They just decided they needed to change the art style up with Halo 4 a little bit, and it's very apparent with some of the trees. For instance, in Halo 4, the level Abandoned, it has these punk rock trees, which is good. I mean, get the Hot Topic trees represented in one way or another in Halo. I'm down for it. And we finally got to see alien Christmas trees, which is honestly probably one of the greatest additions that Halo 4 had in its time. So good on 343. Also, just when we were browsing through the maps of Halo 4, we noticed that some of the Halo 4 trees are just really weirdly shaped. Like at this point, I don't even know what we're looking at when we look at some of the various trees, but hey, whatever. We got more trees in Halo 4. Also, did I mention Halo 5 has a tree as well? Also, if you load up on this Halo 5 level and you stand by the tree, there's like some weird sound you can hear that doesn't really make sense, but yeah, it's maybe coming from the tree. Probably not, but it's there. Halo Infinite's campaign might have a couple of trees spread out in the open world. We really couldn't remember before we started recording this video whether or not the game has any trees in the campaign. And since we can't play co-op in Halo Infinite, we didn't want to go through the trouble of reinstalling the game to try to find out if there's trees in Halo Infinite. But we did remember that in the multiplayer map, Bazaar has a specific room in there that is called trees. It's like a call out or something that they use in competitive play. They're like, go, he's that tree. Go get them, boys. So overall, we can definitively say that Halo has some good trees in the franchise. But there was one moment that we had a very serious discussion about that we wanted to save for the end of the video, and it involves the multiplayer level Guardian from Halo 3. Now, obviously, this map is very heavily tree inspired. I mean, if you look to your left, it's a tree. If you look to the right, it's a tree. If you're standing on this platform, well, it's a tree. And I was trying to explain to Luke the lore behind this map and how if you read the little description text that comes with the map, it talks about how after millennia, the Forerunner structure still exists and all the trees and forestry grew around the Forerunner structure. But Luke pointed out that that doesn't really make sense. And he brought up a really good point, because if you look closely, the Forerunner structure itself isn't just settled in the middle of trees. It's straight up inside of the trees. And trees don't typically grow like that in any situation. So realistically, it makes makes a whole lot more sense that the Forerunners built the structure that is Guardian as just a really badass treehouse. And because of that argument alone, I think Guardian really needs to be elevated to the upper, highest echelon that exists in gaming in total, because that's such a cool thing. Like, these Forerunners, you know, they're building these massive weapons to destroy planets and the life on all types of planets, but then they're also like, hey, while we're at it, let's build a tree house, because why not? I don't know. I just really respect that. So ultimately, across the board, there are some great trees from the Halo franchise, and let's go ahead and just take a look at some of the best trees that really define what the franchise really is about. Like this tree, 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 oh, and this tree. Hey, if you enjoyed this video though, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on, because you can't miss any more videos like this. Seriously, you're not going to want to miss out. Otherwise, that's it for today. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you all next time with a brand new video.